In this video, we are going to understand the integration with Jenkins with AWS. First we are going to understand what we are going to learn in this video. So we understand going to introduction of AWS. Then we move and understand the architecture of Jenkins. Then we going to the practical side and install and configure Jenkins within AWS. So AWS is basically a cloud computing provider based on demand. Cloud computing, the reason behind using one of the advantage of AWS is it's allowed to us spin up our server or decommission when we no longer require our resources in cloud environment. And AWS always charge you based on your usage. So if you have no usage, there would be no additional cost on your AWS environment. Before working on AWS, you need a sign-in account to AWS and then understand what is the free tier provided by AWS. So you can know what are the resources can be used within the AWS environment. For signing up, you require a credit card for a billing purpose. AWS free tier is a free resources which we you going to use in our session. And if we are using more free resources, more than free resources, AWS is going to charge for the additional resources we are going to use it. So I recommend that terminate the AWS resources whenever you are no longer required, so it will give no cost. So now understand first what is the slave architecture in Jenkins. So basically master slave architecture within a Jenkins is, as you can see in a diagram, uh, we have a one master which is the Jenkins master, and we have a different slave. The reason behind using a master slave architecture that we can run our multiple jobs in a different environment, different on the parallel side. With a, we can create different slaves based on a different structure, different environment, and we can utilize a number of different jobs for a different purpose can run on the slave through the master. So it can be controlled by a master system, and it will run on the slave system side. So this is a very brief overview about how master slave architecture will work. So in master, there are multiple deployment strategy when we talk about implementing master slave architecture. One of the strategy is a single master, multiple slaves, or another one is multiple master and multiple slaves. So there is a based on what kind of your need of the project, based on we choose the deployment strategy for deploying master slave infrastructure using a Jenkins. And the reason behind using a Jenkins master slave architecture, there is a these are the three advantages: the flexibility, resilience, and the scalability. So suppose today you require only two slaves in which you need to run your jobs. Tomorrow it would be increased and you need more than 5 or 10 new machines required to run your job. So in that case, you this is a scalability. You can increase your number of nodes and run your jobs. Some you can balance the load of running jobs by using a different nodes or slaves available in your master slave architecture. Suppose in one node you have run job number one, but it's going to be failed. It won't affect to another job which is running on another slave. So these kind of advantages you can get it when you implement master slave architecture within your project. So now coming over to using Jenkins in AWS. So this is, if you can see, this is a very typical real-time production environment which is provided by AWS. You can see. So further in this video, we are going to understand how it's work, and we go one by one these topics. So this is a very typical example of architectures provided by AWS. So these are the few jargons which we see in our previous diagram. Virtual private cloud, which is used as a VPC. This is basically a isolated virtual network which provide you a separate private network in which you can do your work, put your resources and work on it. Security group is basically a firewall which providing controlling in traffic inbound and outbound both. The elastic compute cloud is basically a virtual server, or we going to use word as an instance for EC2. And the elastic IP address is basically static IP address to assign to your instance for going further use. So let's move ahead, and now we're going to implement AWS. So before that, you have to go the AWS, log in into your AWS account. So now you can see over here, these are the server locations, regions where you're going to work. So I would prefer to choose North Virginia because it's cheaper and mostly available. Then go to service, type over here as a VPC. First we're going to create a virtual private cloud. Click on VPC. Now click on launch VPC wizard. So there are the multiple configurations type which we can use. So currently we're going to use VPC with a single public subnet. Click on the select. Now give the name of your VPC. I am going to give the name of Jenkins VPC. You can change the subnet name. I am going to change the name of subnet. Click on create VPC. The rest would be a default. Click on OK. So you can see my new VPC is already created. This one is already a default one which is already created. So now this is my VPC. Now on the left pane you can see subnet over here. In the subnet which we have created, all the subnets over here. In the security, you have to go the security groups. Now we are going to create a security group. So click on create security groups. Give the name of the security group, Jenkins SG. I have given the name. Jenkins. Select the your VPC, this one which we have just recently created. Now we have to give the rules. Click on the add tool. Click on custom TCP with the port 8080 over here. Over here you have to give the IP of your system. So I'm going to, in your browser, type what my IP address. It will provide you your IP address. Copy, go to over here, paste it, and /32. Give the description name, home, IP address. Then add another rule for SSH. When you select SSH, you can see this is the port number of the SSH, and again the same I have to give is home IP address. So basically what I am going to do over here, I am going to access my Jenkins through HTTP through my machine. That's why I am providing the home IP address, and the port is going to use and going to use SSH type to access. So that's why I create the inbound rules. In the outbound, you don't need to do anything. It has to be all traffic, protocol all, and the custom. So let's save it. So now I have saved it, my the security group over. Remember the security group ID which we going to use when we are going to implement a Jenkins. So now I have to create my instance. So let's click on service, go to search tab, type EC2, click on EC2. On this page you can see a launch instance button. Click on this launch instance. So now what we are going to do, we are going to create a one instance, or in a simple terms I would say we're going to create a server in which we are going to deploy our Jenkins and work along it. So now we are actually creating an image. You have to choose free tier only over here. Now I'm going to select Amazon Linux API. This one is a free. So basically you can choose a different one. For this video I'm going to select this. This is basically depend on what is your need. Now over here these are my instance type, which kind of instance type I'm going to use. So this one T2 micro is my the free tier which I'm going to use, because as we told earlier we are going to use the free resources to implement this. So let's select this, go to next configurations stage. Over here I'm going to select my network, which is VPC, which I have already created. My subnet is already selected. In auto assign public ID you have to select the enable, so you can use through the public IP also. So now I have done. Now go to add storage. So by default AWS provide 8 GB storage, and this is sufficient for our demo purpose. So let's move ahead. We are not going to change the size, but in the real case, real scenario in your project, you can change it based on the requirement, and AWS will charge the cost accordingly. Now tags. So over here you can tags which is useful to understand and follow it. So let me add one over here, which is Jenkins, so I can show you the billing status, billing console, where I can see tell you that these are my how I'm going to manage my cost. Next, click on over here. So now you can see this, we have to implement the security group. So I'm going to select an existing group. So this one which we have already created, you can see these my custom TCP role which I have created, and the SSH is my inbound type. So I click it on it and review. I have done this right. Now I'm going to click on launch. So now over here we have to create a key pair which we are going to use to access my environment. So I'm going to create a new pair. Let me give the name Jenkins key pair. And remember, I'm going to download. So now remember where you have to store this Jenkins, because without using it you cannot access your environment, and do not share this PAM file with anyone, otherwise they would be able to access your environment. So let's launch instance over here. So click on this. So you can see over here it will take few minutes to initialize and build your instance over here. So now this is it's running. So let's assign a static IP address, because now we have created the server, but we have to assign the static IP address. So in this case, let's come over here in the network and security, click on elastic IP, click on allocate elastic IP address, pool IP, click on allocate. So this one is allocated, click on this public IPv4 address. Go to actions. This one is explain you after this. When we don't no longer require our resources, we're going to release this IP address, so it will be no cost. Because if you are using a elastic IP address for running instance, AWS won't charge you any cost. But if you are using elastic IP address for instance which is not running, it's going to be charge you additional cost. So whenever we are not using it, I would suggest you to release elastic IP address. So let me associate with this. So now this is my instance which is running right now. I select it and click on the associate. So now this is associated over here. So let's go to services. In here, over here you can select EC2 directly. Come to the EC2 running instance I have. Now you can see over here I have a public DNS IPv4 over here. I public IP over here. So let's connect first. So click on connect. Now remember one thing. This is the command line which we are going to use to access our environment. So first go to your terminal. In terminal, go to the folder where you have installed your PAM key. So my PAM key is in my download folder. So now I'm going to run the command first. ls-lah Jenkins Jenkins key. The name which I have given is Jenkins key there. So you can see this is a write. Anybody can write. So I have to convert in a read mode. So only owner can read it. So this is the command which I'm going to use it. You can see over here. Sorry. So I have copied the command over here. So these are my commands which I'm going to use it. ch mode 400. Now you can run again. So you can see this is on the rights has been changed. So now it's a read only mode only. So now I have to go to inside my server. So I'm copying this line over here, paste it, and then type yes. So now you can see this is changed, and now I am in my AWS instance. So now we have created successfully a VPC account. Then we have created one instance within my private cloud. After that, I have assigned a static IP address to my instance. Now I am inside my instance. So let's install Jenkins. Before install Jenkins, we have some prerequisites which you are going to install. So for that, I have written some commands which you can use refer on. So first we have to update our system. So this is my command going to over here. So it will install the dependencies which we require. After that, we are going to install So these are the package which I am going to install on my environment. Now let's suppose you can understand in that way we are working on a machine which is provided by the AWS in a separate network. So now I have already installed it. So I'm going to install 1.8. So I type over here. So now my dependencies before installing Jenkins is available on my system. These commands will be I will mention in the description box, so you can refer it from there. So now let's install a Jenkins. So before that we going to use wget get command to take the stable Jenkins package. So now this package is done. Then we're going to import the key. So my key is imported right now. Now I'm going to install Jenkins. Type yes. Why? So now my Jenkins is installed. So to start this, we are going to write command so we are going to start our Jenkins service. For that we are going to write command the command would be so my service start. So if you want to start your Jenkins service whenever you boot your system, so select this command check config Jenkins, click on it. So this have to be right on the sudo basis. So now this is, so now we have to enable our service. So what we are going to do, start our service again. So now let's move ahead, close this, go to over here, copy this public DNS IPv4, open new tab, paste it over here, colon 8080. Now you have to identify this. So copy this command, come to the terminal, type that and paste it over here. So it will give you this password, copy this and paste it over here. In the next lecture we are going to understand how we are going to create master and slave nodes and run our jobs through the master on created slave nodes. Thank you very much.